All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 7. So, week 7, we're going to continue with um, what students should learn in social studies and look at the assessments and proficiency scales. I saw students doing a really good job with unpacking standards. It's not an easy thing to do. So, I was happy to see that, at least trying it. Um, Now, going on to week 7, you'll have a instructional presentation here. If you click into it, and for some reason it doesn't load up here, which it might, it takes a little bit. If you click on this, it will download it for you, which I already have it downloaded. Okay, going back. So you will be looking at different proficiency scales, um, and then doing your response and discussion. I also have a participation rubric I want you to do and turn in, and I will be giving you points for that based on your reflections on that. It's 40 points. And it'll be updated in December, depending on your participation from here until then. Um, and there's the participation rubric right here. All right, make sure you turn that in. So here's the instructional presentation here. So assessment, planning, and proficiency scales. And it's all this is just formative assessments and even some summative. So how should social studies skills and knowledge be assessed? So if here are the skills and verbs, depth of knowledge, um, let's go down here. Learning targets, you can create a mental map of Wisconsin. So here is the standard and that these are learning targets here. Um, so once again, breaking it down like you did. The nice thing about breaking down standards and creating learning targets with the school I work in is we have 2 other social studies teachers in 7th grade that we go and do this with. So it can be more difficult um, to all be on the same page. However, in the end, it actually ends up being better because they think of things that I would never think of. So, all right. So here would be if creating a mental map is the learning target you want to assess in a formative way. Here is the proficiency scale. It's a 4-point scale. I've seen 5-point scales, 6-point scales, just so that you always start with what is proficient. Usually on a 4-point scale, 3 is proficient, which leaves room for learning above grade level. And then, this area here is what did students they're not able to do. And really the proficiency scales is good for allowing students to think about why didn't they get to a 3, or what do we need, really reflecting on what does it take to get to a 3. Um, so 3 is there's no major errors or omissions. 2 is there are no major errors, but something small is missing. And then 1 is usually for me, it's like a good start. They have something relevant or even just something. Um, all right. So let's go down to see what that looks like um, right here. There we go. So right here, um, here's a 4th grade example of creating and labeling a map. Um, this is what proficiency will look like for a 3. If we to the next one, here it is. Students can draw a mental map that includes a reasonable shape or outline of a state with physical features, at least one river, and so on, one lake. Um, and so if they can do it at a 3, they can do this. At a 2, so you always start with 3. What do you want students to be able to do? And that's the backwards design. What does proficiency look like first? Then go back from there. So there's some kind of error here. Um, I always have trouble right away without seeing any student work with creating a 2 and a 1 because I don't know what major errors there will be. But that's why, as a teacher, you can just always adjust that as you go on. And then a 4, students in this case, can use a mental map for geographic tasks. In the past, I've done it where a 4 is doing work at the high school level. Since we have all the different levels in the performance indicator or the standard, since we have the high school level right next to it, I usually will create a 4 for high school level, and I get extra credit for that. And it's fun to see students try that. Since I teach middle school, they want to know that what is available to them. All right. So here's an example right here of a full proficiency description and sample tasks. Like, what are this kids actually going to be able to do, and what is their proficiency? What does proficiency look like? Here's the mental mapping, and then right here is a 2 and a 1. And what would that look like for a sample task? And then here is an example of student work. And one of the things that I find it very helpful with in my PLC, which the other 2 social studies teachers and I are in, and we look at student work. What does student performance look like? And that's something that needs to be the same for us teachers. That's one of the most difficult parts in social studies, is figuring out, well, what do we really want the kids to learn for each learning target, and then the final summative task. And if you go over some student work, and that way you can calibrate with each other, I find that very important, and especially with elementary and middle school teachers, and high school really, but especially for elementary school teachers, getting on the same page. What is that student performance look like? And once you're on the same page, then you use a variety of teaching techniques to get there, which is the beauty of it. So this would be what would be proficient. And then, of course, there's an actual map of Wisconsin. I always go back to depth of knowledge as well. So complex reasoning maybe wasn't there with the map of Wisconsin here. I think it was level 2 depth of knowledge. You can always add in something to make it a level 4 or level 3 depth of knowledge. And maybe you could have them compare it to a map of Illinois, and what are some similarities and differences there. There's a lot of different ways you can go through with level 3 and level 4, but just because it's a level 2 standard doesn't mean you can't require kids to go deeper. All right, and then there's the depth of knowledge. Like I said, I still always go back to this and making sure the rigor that's in my classroom is as high as can be. And something that we're also looking back in the school I'm teaching is the rigor that's required of students in the Wisconsin Forward exam, the state testing. So students are used to that and getting the higher depth of knowledge here. All right, so part of the assessment plan, it has to be aligned to the content, depth of knowledge. It effectively measures targets, directs writing of the assessment, and guides your instruction. Really good formative assessments should guide your instructions. Then those are the learning targets. And here's a little chart there. Formative assessments, in my opinion, are even more important because they really tell you information about student learning. Summative assessments are good too, but I find it hard to just have a summative assessment and then close the door on that performance indicator for the entire year, and not ever come back to that, because you're always in social studies and other content areas, you're always coming back to certain things. So very few things are really totally summative where you close the door on that and you're like, we're never going to do that again, which is not true. But formative assessments, really good for self-reflection with students, and encourages dialogue, promotes self-esteem, and allows them to kind of level up, if you will. All right. And here is the performance indicator. So really what I wanted you to look through this and know what proficiency scale is and why they're used. So good luck this week. If you have any questions, please email me, and I will get back to you. But otherwise, it should be another good week here, and hopefully the snow will melt here. I don't know if everyone else had snow in Wisconsin or Minnesota.